In 1692, several young women in Salem suddenly began to have convulsions, crawl around, speak incoherently, and curse at God. Even doctors could not cure them. Eventually, the villagers agreed that this was the work of witches, and the witch hunt began. Salem is a city located in Massachusetts, on the eastern edge of the United States. It was founded by the Puritans, or Protestants, a sect that was quite religious, especially in terms of rituals and practices, to the point that they were not accepted in England. Therefore, they emigrated from England to settle in America. The witch hunt and trial case occurred during 1692 to 1693, during the reign of King Petricha of Ayutthaya. The beginning of the whole story was when a young girl in the village named Elizabeth Paris suddenly started having convulsions, crawling around, screaming and shouting in pain. After that, many other girls showed the same symptoms. Some were so severe that they spoke in an incomprehensible language, as if they were trying to chant some kind of spell. And what the devout Christian villagers could not accept was that some girls had symptoms that made them shout and curse God for no reason. The town doctor tried to find a way to cure these girls from their strange symptoms for years, but could not cure them. At that time, the villagers did not have much medical knowledge. When the incident came to this point, the doctors could not cure them. The villagers therefore agreed that these symptoms were caused by witches and switched the treatment from doctors to priests instead. Just the Puritans were considered religious, and now they were priests. This made the priests want to solve these problems in order to gain the acceptance of the villagers. The way he did it was to torture the girls to confess who the witches were who cursed the girls with abnormal symptoms. At first, it started with the religious side, led by the priests, and then it spread to the government, who became the civil servants who took care of it, led by Sheriff George Corwin. George Corwin was an excellent negotiator with a brutal interrogation style to make the victims he captured admit that they were witches. He did not force them to do it alone, but he secretly led the tortured girls to confess and blame the blame on people with low social power, such as homeless beggars, old women who did not go to church, or even black slaves. And this was the beginning of the witch hunt. Imagine that even in our modern-day ideal witches are women who look a bit strange and are not very good at socializing. As a result, these women are outright accused of being witches and are captured and tortured to confess according to the rules. This behavior made the young women in the city afraid of being captured and tortured. So, let's solve the problem by reporting to the authorities who are suspicious, so that they can later be cleared of being a witch. In the end, the whole city sued each other, and there were witches all over the city. The situation escalated until a special court was established to try witch cases, and it was stipulated that being a witch would be punished with the most severe punishment, up to the death by hanging. Confessing and implicating someone as a witch would receive a light punishment and then be released. But if someone did not confess, insisting that they were innocent but could not find evidence to prove their innocence, the result was torture. There were many methods of torture, the most popular of which were strangled with a rope up to the ankles until the mouth/nose bled, placing stones on the chest continuously. If a family died, whether sentenced to hang or tortured to death, the property would be seized and divided among the jury and the judge. A woman was stripped naked and searched. The jury of women claimed that she had a third nipple, which was evidence of being a witch. She was found guilty and executed by hanging, but after the investigation, no third nipple was found in the inquest report or on the body. The incident continued until the governor could not stand it anymore. He ordered the suspension of this special court and established a new court instead, using juries from other cities. At first, this court still sentenced some defendants, but in the end the governor pardoned them all. Until 1693, all those who were tried for witchcraft were found not guilty and released. In 1 year, 19 were executed, not including those who died during torture, and hundreds were arrested. Corwin himself did not live long. He died suddenly from a blood disease at the age of only 30. His body was buried in the basement of the house. Later, there were reports of strange encounters in this house many times, with many people believing that Corwin's spirit was still in this house. Later, in 1711, the Massachusetts government passed an amnesty law and canceled the results of the witch trials that had taken place in 1692. The legislature therefore passed a law to expunge those who were found guilty and sentenced to death. In addition, compensation was paid to the descendants of all those people. Today, Salem has come back to life as a center for those who love the occult and various kinds of magic. It turns out that the city that once hunted witches in the past has flourished into a real witch town that attracts tourists continuously, especially at the city cemetery, which has a memorial to the 1692 witch hunt, along with 19 trees planted in place of those who were executed by hanging next to the cemetery.